Today in the 5-minute saltwater aquarium guide, it's time for rock and sand. We're talking dry versus live, sand, depth, how much, which types to pick, and the best way to build a stable aquascape, all in under 5 minutes. Hey, I'm Ryan, your host of BRStv in the 5-minute saltwater aquarium guide. This is clear, simplified, and a direct path to setting up a successful first reef tank. Today, rock and sand have already gone in these tanks. Live rock and sand are partially there for aesthetics and simply making the tank look nice, but more so, they're there as the most important filter in the tank. Beneficial bacteria populate the rock and sand and break down uneaten foods and fish waste or filter the tank for you, which is cool because rock and sand are hard to mess up. It's called live rock and live sand because of that beneficial bacteria that lives on the surface of the rock. Some types are more live than others though. Wet rock you get from the holding tanks at a fish store, the most live. Damp rock like real reef, semi-live. And dry rock, not live at the moment. But once all of these are added to the tank, they all very rapidly become live rock. There are different reasons to select or recommend the various types of rocks, but for a first tank, the #1 goal is the easiest path to a successful, sharp-looking tank, followed closely with a reasonable cost. The easiest or fastest path is probably pre-cured live rock from a fish store. It's also the most expensive, often $8 to $10 a pound, and can come with some funky pests that may bother you down the road. Flip side of that is dry rock like Marco's Reef Saver, which is about 1/3 of that price at $3 a pound. This type of rock is very likely the most commonly used rock these days because it's pest-free and so inexpensive, but it takes a bit more patience up front. I'll be frank, patience is not a trait of many new reefers, and we should just own that. So the balance of all that and what we're recommending to new reefers in the 5-minute guide on their first tank is real reef rock. This rock is shipped damp and been cured in salt water for 5 months and has dormant bacteria on its surface, but more importantly, has a lower degree of risk than real live wet rock on oddball pests. Maybe more important than that, the purple color looks nice day one. It's also right in the middle of the price conversation, about $6 a pound. Real reef is just a good balance of objectives for a new reefer. In this case, we selected a 55-pound box of real reef rock. Most people are going to get a pound to a pound and a quarter per gallon of tank size. Having a couple extra pieces almost always results in a more desirable aquascape, so don't be worried if you don't use every last piece in the box. I'll guarantee that you find a use for them down the road. More or less, we're going to stack the rock right on the glass. The goal is just a stable formation, which you find visually interesting, but I have a few tips. First, don't go higher than 2/3 of the tank because we need to leave room for coral growth. Try and resist the temptation to simply make a mound. Use some negative space, meaning peaks, overhangs, cave-type structures. Not only is this visually interesting, but this is the habitat for fish. Many fish are shy, and if you create a smart aquascape, they can actually hide in plain sight. I'd also pick up a few tubes of the extra thick BRS super glue gel in a 20-gram tube. The tube is just easier to manage than versus a bottle. Then put a generous amount on the locations where the rocks connect to create long-term stability. The goal is to lock the points where the rock touches without seeing it, and why I suggest super glue rather than epoxy. I suggest that extra thick super glue because it holds its shape while drying. It's clear and easy to hide. Try and use it in locations where you won't see it later. In terms of sand, this is simpler because I have one very specific suggestion. The Carob Sea special grade sand is the grain size we strongly recommend and what almost every reefer at BRS uses. The grain size is attractive but stays put better than smaller sizes. A good rule of thumb is 1 pound per gallon of water for somewhere around an inch sand bed, but I think 30 pounds is probably adequate for either of these tanks. I wouldn't go deeper than an inch just because you want to be able to clean it. Deeper than an inch tends to collect a lot of the tank's waste and become the tank's toilet. Over an inch just is a bigger challenge to keep clean. Just pour the water and sand into the tank and surround the rock work. The water that comes in the bag contains some beneficial dormant bacteria. There's also a water clarification packet you can use after filling the tank. The reason we do the sand after the rock is because we want the rock to stick directly in the glass for long-term stability and then fill in the sand around it. So this is what the tank looks like with rock and sand. The next logical question is, of course, how do I make water for a saltwater aquarium? So let's fill it. The entire saltwater aquarium guide is always available here, but if you want to make proper fresh water for a saltwater tank done correctly, it's one of the easiest things related to the tank. That's next.